for my state design pattern, I have an example of a player, right? There is a player who can be in one of two attacking states, right? So there's some sort of state variable, right? And it can be in one of two attacking states, right? So we have this sort of abstract state class, and the two inheriting types that I put are, what did I call it? I called it bow state, and sword state. Okay. In the bow state, you can call the attack method. Okay. And in the bow state, it says like you shot a bow, whatever. That's how it works. And in the sword state, you can also call the attack method, right? And in fact, we want to be able to just say, let me just make sure I know what I'm saying. Yes, we want to just be able to say player.attack, right? We want to just tell the player to attack, right? So attack. We want to have some sort of attack method. This attack method, I'll just show you the code, is just going to say state.attack. It'll just call the attack method of the state, right? So a relationship like this, I guess a dotted relationship, yeah, has. So a player uses a state variable, yeah. I guess you could call it an aggregation too, like one-to-one. No, that doesn't make sense. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me check my notes. So yes, actually they call it one-to-one. They do call it a one-to-one. So the one player object contains one state. It is aggregation, yes. Set up a little bit. Okay. So let's go ahead and code this. So let's start this time with the what should we start with? I don't know what we should start with. We can start with these two. Let's start with the bow. Okay, bow state and sword state. Or maybe let's start with player, actually. I think let's start with player. That makes more sense. So Java class, I'm going to create a class called player. It's in the same package, doesn't really matter. And there we go. Player.java. Okay, so here is my player class. It doesn't extend anything, just a player. Okay. The player, right, will have a couple variables. Let's just give it a couple variables here. I'll say public int health. Public int health. Oh, sorry, private. I don't know why I said public. Private int health. Private int level. And importantly, for the state design pattern, we need to have a public state. Okay, state is a data type that we're gonna, abstract data type that we're gonna define. But for now, it's just that. And then I need to have a constructor, right? So I'll just say it's gonna take in int health and an int level, and we create the player, which this dot health, this dot health equals health, and why even started with a level? Like that doesn't even matter. Let's just say this dot level equals 0. Let's just say that. And we want to start the player off in some state, right? So I'm going to give it some state. I'm going to say this dot state equals new. I'm going to say let's start in the sword state. Maybe you can put that as an input parameter too, if you wanted to. You could say what state should it start in, but let's just say this new sword state. Okay, there you go. There's our constructor. Now I want to have a public void attack method, right? This attack method is just going to call state.attack. That's all it's going to call, right? Whatever the state is, have that. And then I also want to have a public void set state, just so that I'm able to change the state of the variable. So I'll say state equals yes. There we go. Okay, that's it. That's the entire player. We have health level, we have a state, we have the constructor, which just sets the health, and when you create a new player is level 0, let's just say, or level 1, I guess. There you go. And this dot state equals new sword state. That's the original state that it's in. And then we have an attack method, but this method just calls the attack method of the state. And then we have a way to set the state to something. So let's go ahead and create the state abstract class now. And if I'm going too fast and you want me to explain anything again, feel free to let me know. I'll explain happily. So state, public abstract class. Abstract class. It's going to be an abstract class because we don't want to create a state. Like there's no object we want to make that state. We want to make a sword state or a bow state or something like that, right? So all this has is we want to just enforce that every state has a public void attack. We just want to enforce that every state has an attack method. That's it. That's the entire state. The entire state method. Okay. So now let's go ahead and create the sword state. Okay. And then we'll make the bow state. Right. So the sword state just has to this is gonna extend state, right? And so it now why am I getting an error? Public class extends. There we go. So shouldn't this attack method have a parameter for player, like what player to attack? Is that what you mean? That's what you mean there? Cool. A little bit of someone with a Kanye West. Your microphone is very, yes, thank you. Okay, good. Yes, if you mean attack method have a parameter for player, like what player to attack, yes, you could have that, but that's not necessary. Like, I'm just saying, make the player attack, and it does some sort of attack. Right? No, like that parameter will be used to pass which player we want the state for, like which player we want to, like that parameter will be used to pass which player we want the state for, like which player we're assigning that state to, which player we're like assigning but attack itself is not a state. Attack itself is a method that's called, and the way the method works changes depending on what state you're in. State.attack this. So the attack method itself, my idea for the attack method, that will be the actual state class. My idea for the attack method is not that like there's any kind of like you're attacking another player or something like that. It's just like shoot the bow or swing the sword. Doesn't matter if you're attacking what. Okay. Reference player. A reference to the player that called the state. Like if sword state needed to reference something on the player. Yeah, okay. If sword state needed to reference something on the player, okay, maybe we can add that after, right? Right now we don't, right? We don't need to do that. Can you explain what the abstract state class does again? Yes, I can, because in the concrete state you'll be saying attack this. If the sword state needs some sort of access to some information in the player, then yes. Then you need that. But we don't, the way I implemented it, you don't. Okay, we can add that after, though. We can add that after. We can, for sure. But not the way I implemented this. Can you explain what the abstract state class does again? So the abstract state class is just the parent of all the states. So maybe you want to have other weapons to have in the game, right? So you would just add a child of the state class. And being a child of that abstract state class just guarantees that there's an attack method. And there's some way to attack with that weapon in the game. But yeah, we'll implement something. Sword state needs to know something about the player. Okay, sounds good. So the way I implemented sword state, because that is the only way you can change its state from within a concrete state class. Yeah. Let me finish typing sword state and bow state, and then we'll extend it a little bit. So the way I just did sword state is that we have to override public void attack, right? And so the attack is just system.out.println. Yeah. attack with a sword. Okay. With a sword. That's it. That's the whole thing. It just guarantees that the state has some sort of attack method. And then I will add a new Java class, and I will. Sorry, I should do it in the actual package. Java class. And I can say here that I want this to be a bow state, same package. And again, all I want to do in the bow state is I just want to override the attack method. So this is a override, right? I want to have a public void attack, right? And then this is just system.out.println attacked with a bow. Okay. Let's say attack with a bow. Is that everything? Yes, I think that's everything. Override bow state has to extend state. Okay, extends state. There we go. That's it. So that should be everything. And now what I did is I just made the main file in the player class. Like, it doesn't really matter. So I'll just say let's just make some sort of main file here. This is the main that I chose. So there we go. Why doesn't it like this? Player P equals new player. Oh yeah, I want 2. I don't need it. Okay. So public static void main strings are player P equals new player 1. So that means it has a HP of 1. Let's just say, whatever, 10, just to make it better. So we're gonna say p.attack, player.attack twice. Okay. So we're just gonna show that both times this will attack with a sword, and then we're gonna set the state to a bow state. Okay. And then we are going to p.attack again. You're gonna see that we're gonna get the reading that it attacked with a bow. So I'm gonna run the player, and can't really see probably because it's very small, but it says attacked with a sword, attack with a sword, attack with a bow. So attack with a sword, attack with a sword, attack with a bow. And there we go. That's everything. Right. Okay. So how about let's implement here that, you have a certain number of arrows, let's say. So the player has a variable that's going to keep track of the number of arrows, and the bow state, right? Bow attack, what do I call it? Bow state? Bow state. Needs to know how many arrows you have, right? So I'm going to say private int arrows, right? I'm going to make a getter, right? I guess I'll just initialize it to 5, or let's say 3 just to make it small. And I'll just make a getter method. So I'm going to say public int get arrows. Okay. And return arrows. Oops, there we go. So we have a getter method for the arrows. So now when I go to the bow state, right, I have to ask, right, I'm going to say if, okay, I'll just put in a comment here, right? If the player has enough arrows, right, then do this, right? Then attack with the bow. But else, right, I'll do system.out.println. System.out.println, not enough arrows. Okay. So now, how do we check if the player has enough arrows? Well, one way we can do it is we can send in the player object, right? I can say public void player P, right? And I can say here P dot if I just said if already. If P dot get arrows, right, is greater than 0, right? Attack with the bow, and then I guess I have to also set the arrows. Let's just say I'll say public void lose an arrow, and I'll just say arrows. Arrows. There we go. So then what we want to just do in the bow state is we just want to call p dot lose an arrow. Okay. Why is else without an if? We do have an if. Why do we have no if?
You gotta close the if with the curly bracket.
Ah, yes. Thank you. There we go. Okay, it doesn't like p dot lose an arrow, so why does it not like p dot lose an arrow? Oh, there's a semicolon. Okay, thought it was some bigger error. Okay, and then override doesn't work anymore. Override doesn't work anymore. Oh yeah, okay, because this class needs some sort of access to the player object. So maybe you'd have to, yeah. So we'll probably just have to actually adjust that in the actual state class, right? So they're always gonna take in a player p, right? They're always gonna take in a player p when they attack. So that's probably common that states need information about who called the class. So I'll just say player p. But like the sword state doesn't use it. It's fine. Doesn't have to use it. The bow state, p dot get arrows. Why does it not like p dot get arrows? Cannot find symbol, location variable type p. P's right there. Why does it not like it? P dot lose an arrow. Cannot find symbol. Oh, okay. No. I don't know what I did. I clicked enter and it worked. So let's see. And then the only thing left we have to do is in the actual attack method, we want to send itself in, right? We want to send the actual player in. So, okay. Should we good? Why do I have an error here? Override, state. No, it's overriding. Player P. Why is this not overriding? Method does not override or implement from a super type. It's extending state. Public void attack. Public void attack. Player P. Player P. It is in fact extending. Alt enter. Alt enter. Remove annotation. Okay, what is this not like? Does not override the attack method, but it does override the attack method in state. There is the attack. Public did I spell something wrong? Public abstract void attack player P. Public void attack player P. Save the files. Okay. Sword state's fine. Why is player state wrong? What is player state? Lose an arrow. Look, void, lose an arrow. Oh, this is some sort of. That's what generated in the thing. Oh yeah. That's what generated just now. It might update. Okay, both. Okay. Now it looks like it's okay. Everything looks like it just fixed there. Good. Okay. So now I will run the player, and we attacked with the bow. Okay, but I can't see how many times I attack with the bow. So let me just attack with the bow. 1, 2, 3. I'll attack 4 times. So now when I run the player, not enough arrows. It's the last one, not enough arrows. So there we go. So if you need all or any of your states to know what object called it, right? Which player maybe is attacking. Very common to need that. Then what you want is you want to be able to call, player.attack, right? Player.attack. And what that's going to do is it's going to call the attack method on the state. But the state requires the pointer, the reference, to the actual class that called it, which will just say state.attack this, right? So this is the object that is calling state, that is calling attack on its state. And then in the actual states, you can use the player that was put as input, like here we used it, but in source state we did not. It doesn't matter. You don't have to. There we have it. So yeah, thank you guys for suggesting that we do that, because that's good to note too. Yeah, it's great. So technically not necessary if none of your states use the player, but probably that seems very common to need to do that.